Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to bring you a PLE reactions video, this time for the Elimination Chamber, which took place on the last day of February in 2026 at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. Per usual, we'll go through every single match in the order that it happened, give you our thoughts and give you a rating for each match, and then go through the entire show as a whole and give you our rating and thoughts on that as well. So without further ado, let's get into the first contest of the evening, which of course was the Women's Elimination Chamber match featuring Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Raquel Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, Kiana James, and Tiffany Stratton. KP, thoughts on the Women's Elimination Chamber match and your thoughts on the winner?
Kicking things off with probably the most expected match of the night, to be fair, out of all the options. I think there's no real surprise to anybody. The women did an okay job. I think it was a fine Elimination Chamber match in terms of like looking back and like think of like previous Chamber matches in the past. I think it maybe was a little bit on the lower side of those. I thought it was quite sloppy in parts. This one didn't really have the cleanest sort of vibe to it. Didn't flow particularly well throughout the entirety of the contest. But there were some bits in there that were quite nice, and I think that did go quite well. But yeah, just a shame, unfortunately, that it didn't quite do too much in the grand scheme of things. Nothing overly special or like crazy seemed to happen in this one. It was almost had like a very basic vibe for the most part of it, which is unfortunate because I was hoping this one's going to be quite a fun matchup because you've got a lot of individuals here that could make it quite fun. You got like Tiffany Stratton and Kiana James, but their athleticism can really bring something to it. We saw sparks in there, which I'll go through in just a second, from like a couple of people here and there, but like, yeah, I don't know, it just had like a really sort of like generic almost feeling to it. In terms of how the match played out, we do see at the start of the contest Kiana James and Tiffany Stratton starting, so that's quite interesting. They had a matchup during Tiffany's title reign of last year, which was actually a pretty good contest between the two of them. Yeah, they set the pace here for this contest. We then see Asuka come into the fray. Before then, Alexa Bliss enters next, and then Rhea Ripley enters at number 5. Alexa sets up Kiana James after Rhea Ripley's entrance and like going through the motions for her sister Abigail, but she gets a poison mist to the face by Asuka. That then allows Kiana James to roll up Alexa Bliss to get the first elimination of this matchup. So obviously quite late into the contest here before that first elimination took place. We would see Raquel Rodriguez enter last, and as she would enter, she sort of got a bit of a tear in the chamber. Gets to a point where she power slams Kiana James through a chamber pod, literally just runs her right through the pod, and then onto the floor. Before then rolls her into the ring. We see Raquel then hitting a Tahana bomb onto Asuka, onto Kiana James, before then pinning both of them in sort of like a stacked sort of way. So that was quite badass, to be fair, from Raquel. I quite liked that spot. I thought it made her look like a beast. So that was pretty great to see for from that perspective. And then going from there on, we see Rhea hitting a cannonball onto Raquel Rodriguez, who basically had Tiffany Stratton on the top rope, was looking for a big offensive move. But yeah, because of Rhea's cannonball, that sort of takes Raquel Rodriguez down onto the canvas. Tiff then hits a moonsault onto Raquel, and that would be the elimination of Rodriguez. That then leaves Tiffany Stratton and Rhea Ripley in the matchup as the final two competitors. And with Tiffany Stratton in control, she does have Rhea down after hitting a rolling senton, before then before going for her prettiest moonsault ever. Rhea does shove Tiffany into the pod, though, before hitting the Riptide after she sort of like gets her back into the ring, and that'll be enough for Rhea Ripley to win this contest, to book her spot at WrestleMania 1-1 against Jade Cargill. So there were some nice spots. Like I said, I thought the elimination of Alexa and then Asuka and Kiana were all really well done. So yeah, no real complaints about that part, but just, I don't know, everything else just seemed to be really sort of, I don't know, quite simple and just basic. I didn't really think anybody reset it alight except for those couple of spots, really. But yeah, it's quite unfortunate, to be fair. I mean, Rhea's cannonball was kind of cool, but besides that, that's like probably the third best spot in the matchup here. So yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really hit for me personally. Like, I liked it, but I didn't love it, if that makes sense. I gave it a 6.5, so yeah, just nothing special or crazy. Just a decent Elimination Chamber contest at the start of the night. Nick, what did you rate of this one, though? Obviously, I've gone through all the flow of the matchup. Maybe you enjoyed it a bit more than I did, or are you sort of thinking a similar vibe to me?
Yeah, the words you use here being simple and basic, and the first kind of word that came to mind was safe. Nothing here groundbreaking, kind of similar. kind of thoughts that you had as well. The highlights for me, well, the surprise for me was Alexa Bliss being eliminated first. I thought that was pretty shocking in the way it happened, and Kiana getting at least one elimination under her belt. I too thought the start of the matchup being between Tiffany and Kiana was an interesting, what was a choice, but two women with gymnast background, perhaps two women of the future. So I thought that was kind of cool to see. Give them some time to shine. I like that idea, and I think it worked out pretty well. But again, definitely playing it safe from that angle as well. I don't think you can argue that the kind of MVP from this match, which you knew I was going to bring it up and love doing so, was Raquel Rodriguez. Obviously slamming Kiana through the pod, and then the double Tejada bomb with Asuka onto Kiana, if you will, and getting the pin over both of them at the same time. She looked really good here and continuing her momentum that she has been building. Love that from her. And Rhea Ripley winning. I think you would have a hard time kind of convincing a lot of people that there were anyone else here, maybe outside of Tiffany. We kind of talked about maybe a few other possibilities, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I think it was always Rhea versus Jade. Always felt like it was the go-to, probably the safest, the biggest match that screamed WrestleMania, at least to me. I assume most kind of would agree with that. So Jade Cargill, she gets a shot at her for the women's championship at WrestleMania. Honestly, that seems like a great idea. I mentioned in the predictions that I thought Asuka could bring a good match out of Jade, but I think if similar light, I think Rhea obviously is one of the best workers in the business right now, and definitely one of the highest star power abilities, and is that of Rhea. So looking forward to that contest, and I think honestly probably Rhea will end up taking that title. But if she can't get a good match out of Jade, there's probably some more serious discussions coming after that. For me, I gave this one also a 6.5 out of 10. So go figure there. Nothing crazy, and it wasn't terrible. We've seen better though. That's kind of what it boils down to, and just a very safe matchup. Not bad. Getting on to the next contest, we have ajlee going up against Becky Lynch, who is defending her Women's Intercontinental Championship. And KP, I believe you said you thought ajlee would win, so you got that one correct. How were your kind of thoughts on the match? Did you feel like it went well? Obviously, first singles match for ajlee in 10 years, first title match for her in 11 years. Do you feel like they made the right decision here?
Yeah, I did highlight in the predictions that AJ winning just made the most sense to me personally after having a good think about it. And I think going down this route makes sense to me because now obviously you've got Becky Lynch just being the chaser again. And my God, is she good at doing that. So yeah, I think they can keep this interesting and sort of fresh going into WrestleMania, which is obviously what they're probably going to be doing with this. I can imagine that's the case anyway. Becky Lynch having tapped out now 3 times to AJ Lee. So I don't think this is the last of this. So yeah, quite interesting to see where this one does go. But in terms of the matchup itself here, it wasn't the cleanest. It was an okay match. It wasn't a clinic by any means necessary. But it did have a fair amount of drama, and especially towards the end. Like I think based on the build, the logical decision is to have AJ win. But like I think just because of what happened in the contest, it did have a bit of a sloppy feel to it, and just didn't really go too smoothly in some aspects. There was a few different spots where it seems to be a little bit sluggish and maybe a little bit slow, which is unfortunate because, I think the ending was quite a nice sequence. I think they put a lot into that, and a couple of twists and turns here and there, which was quite nice, actually. So I liked the sort of like the back and forth sort of reactions from myself watching this one. So I quite enjoyed that for what it was. But yeah, it wasn't the most cleanest technical bout between the two ladies. And as you mentioned, her first singles match in a very, very, very long time, AJ Lee. So yeah, I think, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of spotlight on you when you're in that position. And I think she did okay. She didn't have an absolutely horrific time out there, but it wasn't quite perfect. That's basically what I'm trying to say. You can notice things here and there. But I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was worth, to be fair. Let's go through sort of like how we got to our finish here. So with Jess Carr, the referee, down, Becky hits a DDT onto AJ Lee onto a steel chair, which she'd placed into the ring moments earlier. She wakes Jess up after removing the chair from the ring before then hitting her manhandle slam. And this is quite a big false finish because she goes for a cover and she only gets a kick out at 2 from AJ Lee. I was thinking that could have been it there because it would have made sense, based on Becky trying to just get a win by any means necessary. And there had been a fair bit of time going into this one up until that point anyway, so that would have made sense. But yeah, she does kick out, so quite a shocking kick out there, to be fair, from ajlee. Very resilient behavior from herself. And then once that's all sort of like a reaction sort of took place, we then see Becky get sent into the exposed turnbuckle. This has also happened earlier in the matchup as well. Becky actually tried to use the turnbuckle on ajlee, but the referee basically getting in the way and saying, no, you will not do this. And of course, situation later where, ajlee does actually get Becky into that turnbuckle. And then once that's happened, AJ quickly locks in the Black Widow. That would see the match over and done because Becky Lynch would tap out just after that would be locked in. So yeah, it would that would be the second time actually in the matchup that AJ had locked in that Black Widow. The first time the referee was knocked out and not really aware of the situation, so didn't see the original tap out. But yeah, eventually AJ did get her tap out win. That's why I thought that maybe the manhandle slam would have done it, because AJ had already tapped out Becky and it would have been that heel finish to get it done. But yeah, it was a bit twist and turn, so I like it. I'm a fan of that, to be fair. It sort of set me for a trip at one point, and that's always a good thing. It's not quite expected. So yeah, I like I said, I've already had my say, a little bit sloppy, whatnot, here and there, but was fun and dramatic towards the end and made for a great moment for ajlee, winning, the Women's Intercontinental Championship for the first time in her career, and her first title in good knows how long. So yeah, it's a cool moment for sure. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Like I say, I quite liked it, but just wasn't the best match you'll ever see. Nick, what about you, though? What are your vibes with this one? Did you like it? Did you think it was the right idea in the end to have ajlee beat Becky Lynch? And yeah, what do you think of a first singles match in quite some time, with a first championship win in some time as well?
Going into the predictions video, I was pretty confident that I was going to go with the man Becky Lynch to retain, push the feud off to Mania, have AJ Lee win there. But then you kind of talked about the chasing bed, and you brought up a good point. I thought, you know what? Becky is obviously very good at chasing. She's very good at playing, playing off, well, I was cheated out of the win and whatnot. And so absolutely 100%, I think that is the direction they will go from this. In terms of the actual match, yeah, yeah, there were some sloppy bits in there, especially around the chair. I think was probably the biggest notable one, at least for me. It felt like it was just wasn't quite executed super well. But I think going into it, I think probably at least WWE, the bookers in this scenario know that it's not going to be a 5-star classic. So I think probably why they went the dramatic route, if you will. And I really liked it. I as you kind of alluded to, putting Carr in there, I thought that was that was a great shout. I really want Becky to hit that hard in the Mania build if that is where we are going. I just think that's such a unique angle, and I think they can do a ton of things with it, and especially Becky, just is an incredible character. I think she can do a lot with that. So I hope they do continue to do so. And like you, I too thought that when AJ Lee got to tap out when Carr was down, I thought that was it. It was going to be what I initially thought. Becky was going to get the win. AJ would use that as an excuse to get her rematch at Mania, and then she'll give her the prize at Mania. But alas, AJ Lee gets the win here in Chicago. Great moment. And then for a little bit more on that later, but gets to reunite later with some titles. I thought that was a great moment as well. But yeah, like I said, like we kind of both said here, not a 5-star classic, but a dramatic, good story, and definitely sets up a nice path going forward. I will say, based on how this one-on-one match went, and kind of, I think, still a bit rusty in that of AJ Lee, I think probably will go the route I think a lot of people are kind of thinking, and that's probably doing a 3 or 4 women match for the IC title at Mania, just to further kind of keep AJ Lee safe. If this is kind of the best that she can do, and maybe it's not, who knows. But for what we got here, I thought the only kind of downside and negative I would put towards it is if you can't work a good match with Becky, there aren't a ton of people that you could do in a one-on-one aspect. I think obviously Becky is one of the better workers in WWE from the women's side. So with that, yeah, probably headed towards a multi-woman match at Mania. But regardless, I thought this was a pretty good contest, and I gave this one to a 7 out of 10. Getting into the next contest, we have Finn Balor going up against CM Punk for his World Heavyweight Championship. And I think kind of went exactly how we assumed it would. Um, Finn Balor was not able to turn the main event scene upside down as he claimed. I don't think they showed a like a promo package for this before the match, unless I missed that. But regardless, I think everyone just kind of knew this is kind of where we were headed, and I would argue that Finn Balor really didn't put up that much of a fight for it either. Didn't really feel like he had that big babyface moment either. But KP, what'd you make of this one? I know the surprise isn't much of a bit, but how'd you feel the match overall went?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I thought this match carried the show. To be fair, I thought it was a great one-on-one match between both men. I thought it was absolutely solid, very back and forth, very competitive. Both men worked really well together, and just generally speaking, some nice wrestling throughout. It was just a really clean wrestling contest, to be fair, and just worked on every cylinder, really, for me personally. I thought Balor looked absolutely great despite getting the loss here. Um, I don't think this did him any harm whatsoever. If anything, it put him in that conversation of guys that can absolutely deliver on the world title level, despite obviously not getting the job done. He's in that conversation. I think he gave Punk a really, really, really good match here, in front of the Chicago crowd. Obviously, CM Punk presented like an absolute god, in this matchup. You know, with the entrance and the Chicago Bulls classic announcement and the song over the years. So yeah, I think just generally with that sort of sense, that was quite cool to see. And yeah, I think just the presentation for that was spectacular. And then also get into the matchup itself, like I said, was really, really well done. Balor had moments, you know, where he came really close here, hitting a coup de grace, and going for the cover on Punk, but he did kick out of it. We saw some quite resilient, you know, back and forth from both men, you know, just getting those kickouts and just avoiding sort of you know, the loss when it could have happened. We saw a GTS by Punk, and Balor having to roll out of the ring to sort of like get to safety sort of thing, making it a bit more difficult for CM Punk to try and get that victory. Yeah, I like I say, I just thought this one really worked. It wasn't like a exceptionally special contest or anything, but it was just a really solid. There was nothing wrong with this one. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. It was a solid match. I think what they tried to do was done really well and right, and yeah, it was just a very clean contest, and that for me just speaks volumes. To be fair, as we go towards our finish here of this matchup, though, Finn looks for his second coup de grace of the match, but Punk does counter into a sharpshooter. Um, After the sharpshooter does take place, we see Balor sort of like gets to the ropes, and Punk sort of gets a little bit aggressive and like just delivers a few kicks to the head of Balor, just like holding onto the arm and just kicking away at his face. So yeah, very aggressive, sort of like means to an end there in the end of the contest. He picks Balor up for his second GTS of the matchup, and that'll be enough for CM Punk to get the victory here to retain his World Heavyweight Championship. So yeah, just a bit of a, you know, last ditch effort from Punk, I guess you could say, to get the victory here. Just, you know, really just sort of like getting a bit violent to secure that victory, kicking down Finn Balor. And yeah, like I say, it just had a nice feel to it. Just the end of the contest just seemed to work out. I would have loved Balor to have won, but at the end of the day, we both predicted, you know, CM Punk to win because they've already set the tone for Roman and Punk at Mania, and they're not going to jeopardize that now. So yeah, completely understandable, makes sense. It is what it is. We see a little bit of respect from both men at the end of the contest. Once CM Punk is celebrating, Balor does actually get up to his feet and he shakes the hand of CM Punk, and they have a bit of a mutual respect sort of situation there at the end. That's not the only post-match segment, because as you've already alluded to earlier in this video, we then have ajlee coming on out with her Intercontinental Championship, and her and Punk sort of like have a bit of a celebratory scene in the ring, pointing up to the skies in memory of Larry. So yeah, it was a pretty wholesome moment at the end there for Punk and ajlee, and yeah, they celebrate with their titles. So pretty good night for these two. The power couple, I guess you could say, you know, coming up trumps here at the Elimination Chamber. In terms of the matchup itself, I gave it 8.5 out of 10. I just really liked this one. Thought it was great. Best match of the night by far. And yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. Nick, what did you make of it? You've already given me some vibes that maybe you weren't quite too impressed as I was. But yeah, what were your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I just felt like they could have done a bit more for Fenn in terms of making the match, because I think you have a hard sell here, though, as we've kind of already alluded to. Most people not thinking, you know, or thinking that Finn did not stand a chance. And I just felt like they could have done more with Finn in terms of making him look like he did have a chance. I felt like the match was, again, the match was great in terms of, from in-ring ability, wrestling standpoint. I thought, and I would agree with you as well, definitely the cleanest match of the night. By a good margin. Yeah, it just in terms of making it believable that Finn stood a chance. I just thought they could have done a little bit more with that. But maybe my expectations were just a bit too high. But it was a good contest. And like you said, and I would agree, definitely the best in-ring match of the night. Yeah, I just felt like maybe I was just expecting a bit too much, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. It happens sometimes. But yeah, I do think Finn has proved that he does belong in the main event picture, and so hopefully we can take this going forward, and hopefully in the future he will eventually get that opportunity again. But for now, I think you have a hard time putting him back in that picture, which obviously there isn't really a spot for him. So hopefully we get that Judgment Day drama that we've been yearning for what feels like an eternity. So hopefully they can ramp that up, and maybe an IC title in the meantime for Finn would be a great opportunity, at least in my eyes. But yeah, I love the entrance for Punk. That was a really cool moment. And then the post match celebration between Punk and ajlee. How can you not like that? Whether you like the guys or whether you like them both or not, just a cool moment. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 for me. Which is clear. I still liked it, just not as much as you, and that's fine. Maybe expectations just a bit too high, but maybe something we did not have expectations for. We did mention it on the predictions video about that box, but kind of discussing what was actually in the box, and we did mention it being Danhausen, and it was. We got a very interesting debut for Danhausen. I think probably most people kind of associate this with kind of like a Goldust or Boogeyman, kind of character. So I think that's probably what we're working with here. I have not seen his AEW in-ring stuff. I'm not sure if you have, KP, but I'm familiar with at least the character. I know what he looks like. I know what he does very little, but I am looking forward to that. And I thought the debut was fun. It wasn't like, at least it was something. My biggest fear was there was going to be absolutely nothing. But yeah, KP, what'd you make of this box reveal?
Yeah, the box reveal has been sort of debated and discussed and theorized for some time now, and it's been quite the interesting situation. When it came to the moment last night where Danhausen came out after all the ladies came out, obviously beforehand, I was thinking it was pretty cool, to be fair. I like the reveal. I've seen a fair bit of negative feedback for this one online because they wanted something maybe bigger or whatever, and maybe the crowd weren't quite sort of aware of Danhausen, I guess, didn't really give him the massive pop that maybe people would have liked him to have gotten. But I still liked it for what it was worth. I don't really care about what everybody else thinks. I think this is quite cool. And obviously you've already got that weird sort of strange vibe from him to begin with, given a was it like a little jug of teeth to Michael Cole on commentary? Like that was weird as hell to kick things off. And yeah, no, I'm up for this. I'm kind of keen to see where this leads and to see how he gets on, sort of thing. We are aware that WWE aren't quite the company to really nail those interesting, unique gimmicks. So I'm kind of worried on that sense, maybe a little bit. I hope they don't do them dirty, but yeah, we'll just see what happens. Maybe they actually will nail it. If by some hope and miracle that happens, that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm not gonna sort of get too worried about it right now. But I'm a little bit concerned off the back. But I'm excited. This screams fun to me. It screams something different. And at the end of the day, it's a form of entertainment, and that's what we need right now. So yeah, I'm absolutely more than keen to see where this lies, and let's go from there. But the reveal I thought was kind of cool. Nick and Adam Pearce just seeing the coffin and just walking away, being like, "Yeah, we're not dealing with this." That was quite amusing to me as well. So, yeah, I'm just excited for it. Let's see what happens. What are your overall vibes about this? Are you sort of are you slightly concerned like I am, or are you maybe thinking that this could be something maybe a little bit different and they'll actually quite nail it?
Yeah, I get your concern 100%. Their track record isn't amazing, but then they'll randomly take this weird gimmick and they'll do something good with it. So you never know. like Goldust was a staple for how long, because he could obviously go in the ring, so that helps. So I think if he can go in the ring, like I said, I haven't seen his AEW in ring work, but I think his contract ended quite recently, like yesterday or the day before or something, so very close to it. But I'm just glad they did something, and I thought, the way Adam and Nick ran away from the cop, and I thought that was a great bit as well. But just something different. Sometimes it's a bit exhausting doing serious stuff all the time. And while we both are very passionate about wrestling, it's just nice to break it up sometimes. I think this could be the perfect thing for that. And I'm curious to see what they do with it. I think there are clearly endless possibilities. But the jar of teeth was great. Cursing the WWE universe or something like that, I suppose. But I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what they can do with it, and hopefully it's just not an immediate flop. But regardless, something interesting for a bit to see what they can do with it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the main event, which of course was the men's elimination chamber match featuring Trick Williams, Logan Paul, LA Knight, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Javon Evans. KP, what did you make of the men's elimination chamber matches in terms of a main event? Did you feel it was better and or worse than the women's elimination chamber match? And what was your overall rating for this one?
So straight off the bat, I think it was better than the women's one, and I'll get to my reasons why I thought that in a minute. In terms of this just matchup playing out how it did, Logan Paul, obviously Jey Uso was meant to be in this one, got attacked on SmackDown. We saw Logan qualify on SmackDown's main event. So that's why he was in this one. The graphic, we couldn't find an updated one, so please excuse me for that one. But in terms of basically the match itself, I thought it was quite fun in parts. It was a bit sloppy as well in parts, but that seems to be the general flow across the course of the night. Just besides the fact that Balor and Punk put on a really clean contest. The finish was fun and entertaining. That's what I will say to it. It was drama filled. The finish and just the prelude to that as well. There's just a lot going on. In fact, I'm pretty sure the chamber door didn't shut once Trick Williams got eliminated and they opened it for him to leave. So it was quite funny. Just everybody was sort of like coming on in and just getting involved and having their part. But but the biggest sort of surprise really of this whole thing was Cody not winning. So I was quite thoroughly impressed and ecstatic about that. Obviously, I'll talk about some more things in a moment, but just generally speaking, just very dramatic ending, chaotic for sure. In terms of ending the show, I haven't even spoken about another individual yet, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But just was a really, really great ending to this match. It wasn't a solid opening segment and then into like the first third halfway point sort of area, but it sort of like really peaked once it got towards those late stages. In terms of how the matchup did go down, though, in terms of just the way it took place, we see Cody Rhodes and Javon Evans kicking things off. This is after some extremely long entrances, by the way. Javon's entrance was probably a good 5 minutes, I would say, at least. He made the absolute most of it. Cody Rhodes also had a bit of a long one as well. I didn't think it was quite as long as Javon's, though. The match begins, and we see entrants coming in the order of Logan Paul and... Trick Williams entering next, then Logan Paul, then LA Knight. And once LA Knight does get into it, we see Evans hitting a frog splash on the Trick Williams from the top of the pod. Logan Paul then hits him with a pulverizer, and that would be Javon Evans eliminated from this matchup. The pulverizer looked freaking nasty as well, by the way. Javon sort of landing on the top of his head. I hope that he's absolutely okay, because it looked like a really, really bad crash landing on that maneuver. So hopefully he's doing okay. But once Javon was eliminated, obviously we continue from there. We see Knight hit a BFT on the Trick Williams before Logan Paul hits a low blow on LA Knight, and then would roll him up to get the elimination there. Going on from there, after a back and forth with Logan Paul, Trick Williams gets hit by a crossroads before Logan throws Rhodes into a ring post. He then pins Trick Williams to eliminate him. And all the meanwhile, Randy Orton has entered last during all of this as well. He's the last person involved here in this contest. And basically, once we get to a certain situation, Logan is sort of like rolling here. He's already eliminated 3 men, so that he's absolutely vibing right now. Trick Williams is on his way out, and as I mentioned, we see a masked man try to scale the cage, and he's sort of working his way up. He eventually just drops down, and he gets taken away by security. He gets revealed to be some random guy, very similarly to what we saw on SmackDown the night before. And whilst he's being taken away, The camera sort of like pans back to the entrance of the chamber, and we see another masked individual sneak in undetected. He gets into the ring and he sort of like stares down Logan Paul, kicks him in the midsection, delivers a stomp, and then Cody Rhodes very instinctively on the scene just covers Logan Paul and gets the elimination of Logan. The masked man just sort of like stands across from Cody Rhodes, staring down him and Logan, and then takes off his hood, takes off his mask, and then reveals himself to be Seth Rollins, who returns here at the Elimination Chamber. So yeah, obviously sticking it to the vision, has so much history with the guys there, obviously being part of that group to begin with, and now he is back, and yeah, obviously costs Logan a chance to go one-on-one with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. So yeah, what a return for Seth. Was really well done, to be fair, in terms of like his involvement in the chamber here. The masked men can finally have a relax, so they can come back in another like few months when we need our next sort of big delivery, because that seems to be Triple H's big thing. Yeah, that's not all from this one though. Once we then have Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton left, Seth leaves through the crowd, gets back up and out of the way, and it doesn't take long then before Cody gets into a bit of a rhythm. Drew McIntyre comes in, smashes the head of Cody with the WWE Championship, and then looks to continue to beat down Cody Rhodes. Randy Orton comes into the situation though, hits Drew with an RKO, and Cody hits Drew with a crossroads, seemingly just sort of like teaming up with Randy Orton. Randy does not hesitate. Once Cody Rhodes gets back up to his feet after hitting that crossroads on Drew, Randy Orton then hits Cody with an RKO. That lays him out, and Randy covers Cody to get the victory here and to book his spot on the grandest stage of them all with potentially Drew McIntyre. So yeah, great victory there for Randy in this one. Absolutely thoroughly enjoy the fact that Cody didn't win this one. Just assumed he would have done, so I'm glad to see that I was wrong in that sense. But yeah, Randy getting a big moment like that, deserved 100%. So he's going to WrestleMania. Will he face Drew, though? Not entirely certain if that's going to be the case. We've got some theories for that one. But Drew is set to have a WWE Championship match against Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. So it could go either way, that one, or we could see whatever we've discussed from there on afterwards. Maybe that's a screwy finish as well. Then we get a load of men in that matchup. Who knows? But either way, that's a conversation for another day. But he does have a WWE Championship match at WrestleMania. That is Randy Orton. So yeah, great finish there. I thought the match was better than the women's one. That's why I gave it a 7.5 instead of a 6.5. Just thought it had a few more different layers, a bit more drama, and was a bit better just the way it ended. I thought like the women's one was very safe, as you said, very well played. But yeah, this one was a bit more chaotic, fun, entertaining, for sure, especially those late stages. So yeah, I quite liked it in terms of how it went down towards the end. Nick, I rattled on. Sorry. What did you think of this one? Randy Orton winning, great result for him, right? I'm sure you agree. The return of Seth Rollins, and yeah, everything that took place, in and around that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no worries. There's a lot to go over here, and I think you could definitely argue the overbooked spots. Obviously, towards the end, you have three additional guys getting involved, but honestly, I felt like it worked. I felt like it just tied everything together quite nicely. Really enjoyed what they did. But getting into the performances of every single person, I felt Javon did good enough, maybe a bit lackluster for what we probably should have expected from him. But Trick and Logan doing a well job, especially Logan Paul. Absolutely making the most of this opportunity. Wasn't even obviously supposed to be in this match, but definitely maybe those were the eliminations that Bronson was supposed to get. But regardless, Logan Paul did a pretty good job and continues to take advantage of every opportunity he does get. Then having Seth kind of come in, maybe I love the idea of Seth and Logan at Mania. That's the direction we're going. I think that has a lot of potential, and like I said, Logan Paul takes advantage of every opportunity he does have. And if Seth Rollins is clear for Mania, which I would assume if he's here, I'm not sure if he's 100%, but I assume by Mania he would be. So I like that idea. If we're doing pitting the Vision up against Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins, getting revenge for all of that, I think that's perfect. That's a perfect story for Mania. And then yeah, Drew McIntyre getting involved here again, of course. I just love the opportunity, the opportunistic Randy Orton doing what he does best, striking out of nowhere, getting the win there, getting his big moment at Mania. I think it's long overdue. I think a lot of people did want to see that with Cody. And I don't know if I love the idea of Drew having to defend it against Cody. Why shouldn't he have to defend it against Jacob? He essentially cost Jacob's spot to be here as well twice. So interesting decision there. But yeah, I did like this one a lot better, a lot more drama. And I did like this one better than the women's. And actually, the match of the night for me, 8 out of 10, just felt like it did a lot of good for the stories in full. But KP, in terms of overall, how did you feel about this Elimination Chamber walking out? I think there was definitely not the best show, and it feels like, unfortunately, for me at least, I think this did come across as a B-level pay-per-view. Make of that what you will. But curious to get your thoughts on this overall and your overall rating, the highlights, lowlights, and all that good stuff. And we'll get this one wrapped up.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because there were like a couple of nice spots throughout the match card. I think CM Punk and Finn Balor being matched tonight by some way is a testament to that sort of description. The men's chamber being probably the better of the other three matches, just about as well. And I didn't overly think that one was fantastic anyway. I just really liked the ending. It was just pure chaos and quite fun. So yeah, just the I don't know. It was maybe a bit of a disappointing evening as a show throughout. I say that my rating doesn't really reflect that, I guess you could say. As an average of all my matches put together, it comes out as a 7.5 out of 10, which sounds pretty decent. So yeah, I don't know. It just it felt a bit flat. Like the women's match, like I said, it just felt very safe and basic. So that was quite unfortunate. And then Becky and AJ, although I enjoyed the moment and it was it's a fun way they did it. It just wasn't as clean as I would have liked it to have been. So that's like it's just like little things like that. Really, it stopped this show from being, I would describe as good. I just thought this one was okay. It was fine. It was decent, and it sets the pace for WrestleMania. I guess we sort of like know a few more situations now, bit clearer. Some things are still a bit shadowed out and whatever, but I think it did some things right, but some things it failed to live up to the expectations of. I think that's a bit of a shame. So yeah, 7.5 overall. It's not my favorite show of Elimination Chamber, but it was okay and it was fine. What about you though, Nick? In terms of your overall rating for this one, your general vibe across the course of the night, what did you make of it all? Was it a bit of a disappointment, or do you think it did just about enough to get the job done?
I mentioned the B-level PLE, and I start to feel like any kind of PLE that only has 4 matches is starting to get slotted in that. Like we're putting less faith in those PLEs, and the only ones that are getting true hype are those big ones. Basically in mentioning the big four, which even those those don't even always qualify. But definitely Mania, definitely SummerSlam. Like the ones that have 2 nights now, and I'm assuming Royal Rumble is close behind that. But those are the ones that feel like they are the big shows now because of these other cards being so small a lot of the times. But in terms of what we got here, like I felt like it wasn't bad. Like we've had worse, but it obviously didn't light the world on fire. Some cool moments, of course, throughout the evening, but in the grand scheme of things, definitely played a lot of things safe. Props to Randy Orton finally getting his. That was my match of the night. Was the men's elimination chamber, followed closely by the Finn Balor CM Punk match. But none of the matches were terrible. So give that for what it's worth. Just a good, safe PLE. And so, but that's not always what you want to see going into WrestleMania season. But with that, we are officially done with PLEs until WrestleMania. So now we have a essentially a little less than 2 months to build up to Mania. So looking forward to that. It's the best time of year to be a wrestling fan. At least we hope we can continue to say that. So looking forward to see what is on the horizon. But for Elimination Chamber, enough from us here at The Push. What did you all make of it? Please let us know in the comments below. Let us know what your favorite match and least favorite matches of the evening were. As always, we look forward to hearing back from you. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, as it does help us out over here at The Push. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.